friends, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. I want to show you how to make this sweet little card using some digital stamps. So I have opened a Word document and I'm going to insert a picture, and I'm just right now looking through my files, which are a mess, admittedly. So I'm just looking for my TLC folder, and I'm going to choose some background paper. So there's some Posh Pups background paper that were just released, and you can see me inserting it here, and you see me select the layout option for text wrapping, and I always pick the square one, and that allows me to move the paper around and resize it. So I'm each time clicking on insert, and I select the file. Then you can see me choose the text wrap option there under layout options, and then I can move the little image around. So I'm selecting another one. So it's insert pictures from this device, clicking the little layout option, and then I just keep doing it over and over till I have all the images I want. Now the images that I'm using here for the dog and the bowl and what will become my sentiment, there's a word bubble here. These are all PNG images, and I use PNG because they have clear background images, and it allows me to do things like this. I can layer them, and look, I'm just resizing it by using the corner and just like pushing in or pulling out on the little corner of each image. So I just click on the image and get that corner, and then move it in or out, and that doesn't distort it. It keeps the size and shape. That's the easiest way to do it. And I'm just looking through my folders to see if there are other sentiments that came with this, because I'm sure there are. I just can't find what I did with them. But I've laid this out, and I used the white instead of the clear elements for the dog and the bowl and the other things that I chose, because I actually want to do my own coloring. There is an option where you could use the clear one, and then the background paper would fill in the image that you wanted to do. That's a little bit more advanced than this, so I'm starting with this. So all I did then was to put some cardstock in my printer, and I hit print and printed this out. So this is printed out on cardstock. I'm now just using my Copics to color this in. So I'm going to color this little pug black, and I'm using the warm gray. So I'm using W9, W7, W5, W3, W1, and W0, and I'm just going to use the darkest color, which is W9, to add some dark shades where I think he will be darkest, which to me is around the edges and around curves and crevices. So I'm then taking my W7, which is the next lightest color, and I'm going over the W9 and then just elongating my lines and making them wider. So I'll just do this. I'll go right down the line, W5, and just keep doing the same thing till I have this little pug colored in the way I want him. So I usually go over them once, and then if I don't feel like the dark spots are dark enough, I'll go over it a second time. But the paper that I'm actually working on is only 65-pound white cardstock, and it's not heavy enough to really go over my images twice with my Copic markers, because it'll just cause them to bleed out. So I try just to do it once if I can, so that the inks don't bleed out beyond the line. Now, if you are using something like the Altenew alcohol markers, or if you haven't gotten started with alcohol markers yet, I highly recommend getting started with the Altenew alcohol markers, because you can get the sets that already have the colors, put together for you. And there are a couple of sets that have different gray shades, like they each have a set of 4 grays. So you could do something like this with that, because that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm just using a set of grays, and I used the lightest ones to do his little chest to keep that white, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill it all in. I'm going to fill in his little snout also, but I'm going to stipple that. So here I'm just like using long lines of color or flicking color. But when I go to do his snout, I'll use dots. That's stippling the color. And I'll just fill it in with like 2 or 3 or 4 different colors of dots of these same markers. So I get a more textured look there because I just like that look. I like the way that it looks. It's one of the things that I learned in all the coloring classes that I've taken so far, and it's one of the things I like in a spot like this. So, and that's going to complete the little dog except for his tongue. So I'm going to grab a couple of reds. I decided to grab R29, and then when I got that all colored in, I realized his tongue should be a deeper red, so I pulled out R59 and colored in half of it, and then just colored in the other half with the R59. So I'm using those same 2 reds to color in the X and O's that I'm going to use for the sentiment. That is really like a little dog toy piece. There are a bunch of sentiments that go with this. I just couldn't find the folder I put them in. I'm using R20 to fill in that speech bubble, and it's pretty nice to be able to just layer your images on top of the background paper, because now it prints out the background paper, and I can actually print as many times as I want and use this background paper over and over and over. It's not like a pattern paper pack where you buy it and maybe you get 2 or 4 of each pattern. This time I get 1 of each pattern, but I can print it out any number of times. I just have it in a folder labeled TLC Posh Pups Digital Papers. So now I'm using E17, E13, and E11 to color in the rope. And I'm just adding a few darker spots back in and fixing the color variation a little bit. And I'm going to use a little bit of white gel pen on his eye. I just want to put some white spots in there and make them a little brighter. And I'll put a little white gel pen on the tip of his nose also, because he should have a white nose. And here I'm just coloring in the bones in the bowl, on the front of the bowl and in the bowl, and I'm using the E17, E13, and E11 again. And I'm going to use those same colors to just make dots to color in the food. I'm not getting fussy about coloring the food. I'm just making dots over where the food is. And I'm going to pull out a few blues for that bowl. So I'm going to use B99, B97, B95, and B91. And I just use the 99 around the edges of the bowl, the rim and the bottom rim, and the very sides of the front, both sides of the front. And then I take my B95 and I go over the top of what I just did, and I'm just flicking now. I'm just flicking the colors toward the center, and then I'm using the B91. Actually, I went B99, B97, B95, and then B91. And I am actually putting a second coat on the bones because I just wanted a little bit more variation in color there. Mostly, I keep coloring pretty simple. I want to be able to see some color variation so that it looks like there are dark spots and light spots. And, I don't try to make it any more complicated than that. And at first here I was going to cut this down to work as my card front. And then I decide, no, I want to use one of the great die cut sets that I have. And I have this scalloped rectangle garden die set that I really love. It's my very favorite rectangle die. So I'm just trimming this down, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out with my Big Shot. So I've got my card base cut 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. I've got a piece of that red cardstock cut down at 3 3/4 by 5, and I took my old corner rounder and just rounded the corners on that. And I started to put tape runner down, and I ran out of tape there. So I'll just put this down and center it the best I can. And then I'm going to add that to the front, and it definitely didn't get this centered. So I did eventually pull this up and fix it because it annoyed me. It was just a little too off. So I'm just going to add some liquid glue to the back of this and put that on the card front. This was a pretty quick Valentine's Day card. Like it literally took maybe 20 minutes altogether. And I'm just using my corner rounder again and rounding the bottom corners of both the front and back of the card. How long has it been since you used that corner rounder in your drawer? So I pulled mine out and used it, and I decided to add a few little sequins. I have these really pretty heart sequins that I got in a craft kit a long time ago, so I have them in my stash. Valentine's Day seems like a perfect time to start using them up, so I've been using them for the last couple of weeks. So I'm just going to pull those out, and there are like 3 or 4 different colors, so I'll just add one of each color and glue that on. So I'm just kind of playing around with it there, but I think they look kind of cute there to add a little something something. And that's a pretty quick and simple, fairly clean and simple card for me, actually. And one other final touch that I do is whenever I have images, I like them to look grounded. So I pulled out the W3 marker and I just added a little bit of like shadow below him. I'm not like paying attention to where the light source is. I just want to ground that image a little bit, and I like that touch there. So that's going to complete my card. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed. I would love to have you subscribe and click that bell so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.